In this video, I'm going to share a few final tips for using EQ in your mix. Tip number one is boost wide but cut narrow. When you're boosting, if you boost a wide range of frequencies, this makes the EQ both effective and transparent. People aren't going to be hearing your mix and thinking, wow, that's great EQ. They're just going to be thinking like, wow, that's great music or that's great sound. All right, so a wide boost will be less noticeable and more effective than a narrow boost, because you're either going to have, only a few frequencies at a low range and you're not really going to hear that. Or if you increase that boost enough to hear it, it will sort of sound weird and stick out, like there's this few frequencies that are just coming out of nowhere to dominate the spectrum. So for instance, if I had a boost like right around here, it just sounds so boxy and weird. But if I take a gentler approach and I only boost a little bit and I widen that Q, then it's going to warm up the sound in a very effective way. Now, when talking about cuts, if you have a narrow cut, it probably means you are correcting a problem, and a narrow cut will not be that noticeable. A wide cut, though, will be noticeable in one of two ways. Either it's not going to be super effective if it's, not very much, or if you have a drastic cut with a wide Q, then you're going to be removing like a fundamental part of that instrument or track. And so that saxophone, it just sounds quieter and it sounds worse, right? There's some overtones missing and things like that. So when you boost wide or when you cut narrow, your EQ becomes effective and sort of invisible. Now, another tip is to cut before you boost. So one of the first things I did on this track before I did any other EQ work was I put this filter in. And this filter serves to remove some of the room rumble and some of the just sort of background haze of noise. It's not super noticeable at first, but when we start to add compression on the track and then bus compression, any little noise like that can come out into the mix. And so by adding a filter from the get-go, you eliminate that. So again, there's no mixing police out there. There's no one who's going to say that you did the wrong thing, especially if you're getting a good sound. And what a good sound is will change depending upon like what year it is and who's listening to it and what playback system they're listening on and what the sort of the ethos of the genre you're mixing is. And so there's a lot of variables to it, but these are just some tips to help you get a handle on using EQ in a mix.